Would you like to not be horribly poor in Archeage? Well, there are several things that can be done to help you, but let's start with labor points. In this series of videos, we'll be covering what means there are of gaining labor points, how to properly dump labor points when you're capped or close to, and how to invest your labor points effectively to turn them into money, both when you have a lot and when you're just starting out with only a gold or two to your name. Let's get started. We'll begin with generating labor points. Labor points are love, labor points are life. Labor points are essential for all crafting in Archeage, for all leveling of professions, and are required for just about anything to make money, even opening coin purses looted off dead bodies. You will spread your labor points through your professions and fill them with your labor points. Substantially leveled trade skills can also grant reductions to the labor cost of producing goods, but they still cost a good sum. So remember, labor point is love, labor point is life. Everyone logged into a character gains 5 labor points every 5 minutes they're online, 10 if you're a patron, but there are several things you can do to generate labor. We'll begin with a way for poor players to farm it easily. The options for gaining labor are as follows. You can buy patron status, either with real money or 2 in-game Apex, and patron status comes with a passive labor gain even when offline. You can buy workers' compensation potions that have a 12-hour cooldown for 1,000 labor points. You can buy other workers' compensation potions that don't have a cooldown but reward 200 or 500 labor, or you can use beds to obtain between 50 and 100 labor. Beds, when used, allow your character to sleep for 10 minutes and reward a flat labor bonus depending on what kind of bed you use. Beds placed in houses, depending on their quality, award between 50 and 80 labor points. On my server, cheap end ones awarding 50 can be purchased for 2 to 5 gold, whereas the expensive beds awarding 80 can be around 40 gold. You have to own the private bed to use it though, so no mooching off someone else's property. Now the following may be removed at a later date, but for the moment it works just fine. There are public beds in each starting zone that cost 2 Gilda stars to use, but award 100 labor. Conveniently though, since labor is account-wide, and the 21-hour cooldown on using a bed is character-bound, you can make a new character, rush 2 quests for Gilda stars, and use the bed to gain labor, then delete the alt. Since each account starts with 2 character slots, this shouldn't be troublesome for most new players who have only one main. If you decide to do this, make the alt a Harani. This is because the Harani starting racial quests are simple talk to NPC quests, and are in more or less a straight line to the guest houses, which are also closer to the starting point than other races. This will save several minutes compared to the others. All in all, the alt should generate 100 labor in 13 minutes, counting the time creating it and laying in the bed doing nothing, which you can spend AFK or alt-tabbed watching My Little Pony, and that's not counting the passive labor gained during this time. Remember to use the speed boosts on the road instead of sprinting when possible. It's actually faster. It might be beneficial to make the alt on a low population server just to make the place less crowded if you're not concerned about switching back to a high pop one with a login queue. The character will take 10 minutes to delete once you're done. If you're a poor player that is strapped for labor and can't sell in the auction house yet, trade packs can generate some starting gold. We'll address this more in a later video, but the time spent running the pack, plus laying in the bed, plus the 100 labor, should get you the flat 120 you need to craft and turn in a trade pack, and while the labor generating alt is in the process of deletion, you can just hop on your main character, run the trade pack, remake the alt when you're done, and repeat so long as you have time and materials to keep doing it, if you so desire. However, I would not recommend this in the long term, as it is rather time-consuming and eventually will not be worthwhile unless you find trade runs enjoyable, in which case please see a dominatrix because you clearly need one. Again, this labor generation method may be something the company doesn't want to keep around and may be modified or removed at a later date, but for the moment it works. On the note of things that currently work but may be removed, or in this case penalized by the company, there's a lot of people who leave their characters logged in to auto-attack target dummies to keep the online labor generation and avoid being kicked for being AFK. I say, don't even bother. Have more dignity and self-respect than to associate with those riffraff. Watch my guides, invest your labor wisely, and buy yourself a house. I might consider it acceptable for new, poor players if the public beds are removed at some point, but in the present state of the game, don't associate with those lowlifes. You won't be poor for long if you're paying attention. I bought my patron status with in-game gold, and I didn't need to AFK on a target dummy. Again, we'll talk more about escaping poverty in a later video in the series. Now, as for other means of generating labor potions and having patron status, the question you should ask yourself when buying a labor potion is, can you convert the labor you're getting into more money than you spent on the potion, and is it worth your time to do so? For example, running trade packs may be tedious and annoying for some, but less of an issue for others. My point is, you want to get your money's worth out of the labor potion that you're buying. I can't just tell you, buy labor potions. Maybe you're on a server where they're extremely expensive and might not be worth the money. So always check what you can do with that labor first, and if it'll make you more than you spent and be worth your time and effort. We'll talk more about labor investing in the next video. For the moment, here's the 411 on the labor potions. They come from the credit store and the loyalty store in-game shops for people that purchased Apex off the auction house or with real money. But in most cases, you'll wind up buying labor potions straight off the auction house. Do note that they are not made with alchemy. Now, the 200 and 500 labor potions have no cooldown, but seem to generally be so expensive that they're not going to be worth the money on several servers. The primary mitigating factor on the normal 12-hour cooldown 1000 labor potions is simply that, the 12-hour cooldown. Conveniently though, here's a tip. This is also character bound, and if you make an alt and level it up to 15, you can pop potions there too. If you have the money and patience to buy a couple character slots and level a few alts to 15, you could potentially log into Archeage, character hop, pop a potion on each, and gain 4000 labor in under 2 minutes. Doing that would, of course, eliminate space for making an alt to farm labor off the beds, but if you have the money for labor potions on all your characters and a couple expansion slots, the bed labor farm is probably not worth your time anymore anyway. Now, the biggest labor generator is the passive gain of 5 labor points every 5 minutes, even when offline, that comes with patron status. That's 1,440 labor points per day for a 30-day period if you buy 2 in-game Apex off the auction house, which, if you don't let it cap out and actually use them, totals up to 43,200 labor points, or just over 43 labor potions worth. It also comes with 5 loyalty tokens per day on login, which would total to 150 for 30 days, and assuming you log in each day and spend them all on labor potions, that's another 6 right there. And that's to say nothing of other benefits that come with the higher labor cap of 5,000 instead of 2,000, which will save you a lot of stress, or the benefit of land ownership. Unless Apex is insanely expensive on your server, you should probably try to get patron status once it's within your financial means. But don't let saving up for Apex stop you from buying a labor potion, converting that labor into money, and moving yourself faster along the track to success. Anyway, that's part 1 of the Financial Success in Archeage series. I'm curious to see what kind of reaction this video will receive, since I haven't made a video about fantasy MMOs for a very long time, so I'm not sure if this series is actually something anyone cares about. I guess we'll see what we'll see. In the event of a clearly positive reaction, the next parts will go over effective labor sinking and tips on labor investment, as well as money making, both when starting out small and when you've already struck up a small fortune. Ladies, gentlemen, I'll see you next time.